Separation is an illusion. Everything is connected. In my first series, I talked about how K. Dot did other Drake and Not Like Us. Was about real or fake. I broke it down to one side is real, love, culture. And the other, you have fake, fear, corporations. Humanity has always been about othering. This series, I'm going to do human, dumb, left, and robot, smart, right? Jay Moore has a channel on YouTube, and Michael Eric Dyson said K. Dot was trying to de-black Drake. Then he said Drake grew up in Canada. And in case you were following me, my previous video is Black and Act. Anybody that's not from the States is not black. Then he goes on to say black people fled America going to Canada. That's cap 2. When you look at Canada's immigration laws, you'll see. Then he goes on to say blackness, and then black, black, black. He says black so much, but make sure to identify himself as light-skinned black. And you can't be black if you got to put light skin in front of it. I've been working on how to explain othering since I watched a documentary in April 2024. That's before Not Like Us. And K. Dot wasn't trying to de-black Drake. Rick Ross was doing that with the white boy, and he ended up with BBL Drizzy. What Michael Eric Dyson didn't say was the Willie Lynch theory, which is perfect for othering in this case. To sum it up, the Willie Lynch theory is about othering to maintain control. Slaves. Put light skin against dark skin, young against old, male against female. On January 23rd, I made a video. It's Black and Act. Almost the next day, during the snowstorm, I found a book that backed me up. The ink is black. The author's from Kentucky. I go to get a picture the next day, and I find another book in the library. What are the odds? That's God. Talking about heaven sent. Those are the two books right there. And I'm doing the fire because a certain channel that I love does the fire. Shout out the company, man. So, September 9th, 2009, I asked for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And I seek peace, love, and courage. And I know if I obtain these things, then everything else will come together on its own. So, September 9th, 2009, I was 19, wasn't even 20 yet. And those were my thoughts that I put on social media. So I don't like people saying, oh, I was young, I didn't know what I was doing, or I got hacked, when people go back and look at their social media profiles and they said some stupid stuff. Meanwhile, in 1929, Jack organized the Trope, a baseball club, show, and a band for a white Canadian named Rod Whitman out of Saskatchewan. He came to Chicago and wanted 2 Negro ball clubs, a minstrel show, and a band. A troupe is a company or band, especially of performers, actors, dancers, etc., from French troupe, company. Minstrel, a servant, a functionary, 1200th century, 13th century, instrumental, musician, singer, or storyteller. Rod Whitman wanted 2 ball clubs, one named the Texas Giants and the other the New York All-Stars. Jack organized this troupe, got a 5-piece band and 6 other people as a minstrel show. We traveled from Fort Williams, Ontario to Vancouver, to British Columbia, from Prince Albert all the way to Medicine Hat. In case you don't know where these places are, it's Canada. At 12 o'clock, Every day, Rod would put up $500 to the local team to play the All-Stars. The team was picked from Texas Giants and New York All-Stars. They never lost a game. They had their own umpires. We weren't there to lose. Feel like we paid the refs off and then we fixed the game? They tried to rig the game, but they can't fake influence. So he charged admission for that game. When the game was over, he opened up his midway. At 6 o'clock, Texas Giants and New York All-Stars would play a game. That was another admission. The ball game was over, the midway would open again, and the colored minstrel show would go on at the same time. The midway would close, and the band would play for the dance. That's another admission. The dance would go until 1 o'clock. So from 12 o'clock noon until 1 o'clock in the morning, Whitman was selling entertainment. All the ball players were semi-pros from Chicago. Jack organized the whole thing. The payroll was $1,800 a month for 24 players in 1924. They had a heck of a show. People got a kick out of it. The biggest towns were Edmonton, Regina, Winnipeg, Saskatoon. The carnival would be close to the fairgrounds where there was a ball field. And the midway is another word for carnival. So, in between the baseball games and the dance, there was a carnival. And you know how much money a carnival brings in. The kids got a kick out of us. They knew colored people lived in Texas. So, everybody was for the Texas Giants, not the New York All-Stars. So we put all the light-complected players on New York and the darker-complected players on Texas. So this is happening in Canada in 1929. So we clearly see the Willie Lynch light skin, dark skin appearing then. We never played a game in the United States. Rod couldn't get a license. Rod would take everything. There wouldn't be anything left in the town when he was finished. So when you look at the industry before the Canadian came down, you had Young Money. How many artists are flourishing in Young Money? You got good music. How many artists is still, pushing music out and still popping the good music? You got Maybach Music. You know what I mean? How many people are pumping out music and Maybach music that's still, from the States? You got QC, Lil Baby. How many artists is still popping after Do Right and Kill Everything? Rod would take everything. There wouldn't be anything left in the town when he was finished. Negro baseball was once heroic and tawdry, a gallsome thing and a blot on America's conscience. Tawdry is no longer fresh or elegant, but displayed as if it were so, in cheap and ostentatious imitation of what is rich or costly. So in case you got the hubcap spinners instead of the real spinners, in case you got the Chrysler 300 instead of a Phantom, in case you got the chain that turns your neck green, in case you're balling on the budget, that's tawdry. Gallsome is spelled Gladsum, so this is before there was even an E on the word, and it says the 1400s. Glad, joyful, and cheerful is the definition. And it says see glad, adjective, plus some. So you can see where they took two words and brought them together, like I did in the previous video. Blot, late 14th century, a spot or stain of ink. Also, a moral stain or blemish, a disgrace, a sin, a word of uncertain origins. The end of chapter 1. Now, while looking up the blot, I see this word erasure. And in case you look up erasure, the third definition, A, B, and C, will blow your mind. And I get all of this out of this book right here, and it's called Only the Ball is White. And like I said, talk about heaven sent. I got this book first in the library, and it's The Ink is Black. The Ink is Black. And I got both of these books in the storm when I couldn't even leave. And I went to the library, and I don't usually go to the library, but within the first 10 pages, I found the story about light-skinned players on one team, dark-skinned players on another team. Now, in chapter 2, it says, 1867, December, the Civil War was 2.5 years in the past. Former slaves had just been given the right to vote. December 11th and 12th, the National Association of Baseball Players held a convention in Philadelphia. They had 237 delegates. The nation's moral dilemma was on the table. What to do with 4.5 million new citizens, all of them black. The NABBP nominating committee penned the first color line in baseball, unanimously calling for an exclusion of any club which may be composed of one or more colored people or colored persons. In the South, black codes restricting the movements and rights of Negroes were enforced. The South was determined to reestablish bondage for the blacks. They were called freedmen, but the title was a sham. So they called them free, but that was cap. The Negro was a political subject in 1867. Simple prejudice brought baseball's color line. The members of the association was Northerners, but shared Southerners' beliefs. Negroes were inferior and not fit company for white gentlemen. The NABBP lasted a few more years, but its ban on black men set the pattern for its successor. Formed in 1871, the NAPBBP, kind of sounds like the OBBBA, never had a written rule against Negro players. There existed a gentleman's agreement barring Negroes from the National League. Now, in 1909, Canada passed a law that prohibited poor people from entering the country for any reason. So when Michael Eric Dyson talked about the blacks, slaves running up to Canada for freedom, this is in 1909, and we already saw how it was in 1929 when the trope goes up there with the Canadian Rod Whitman. So the original JB wasn't always black. James Brown said, "You got to remember, Reverend, when I was coming up, you had to be tall and light-skinned, long and wavy hair, like Jackie or Smokey Robinson. He was short, had African features, and didn't have any of what was considered beautiful at that time. On the spur of the moment, Say It Loud literally changed the social dynamics of the United States. In America, it went from Negro to colored to black. Because of that one song, Black Was Beautiful, the beginning of being beautiful. At 13, Al Sharpton remembers, not only did some whites look down on us, there were many light-skinned blacks who looked down on dark-skinned blacks. And overnight, dark-skinned girls became the thing you wanted. Kind of like Black Lives Matter and Wakanda Forever. Doechii said, no natural hair or curls was in style. Perms, bleaching your skin was in style. Long straight hair, hazel eyes, light skin, and bow-legged, and you was popping. Doechii said that in February 2016. Just 10 years ago. 9 on YouTube. When I grew up, it was always dark-skinned niggas is out of style, light-skinned niggas is out of style. I was short, fat, and black, and I was clown for it. I cried and fought until I was the one making people cry. I was also white because I got good grades. I didn't use broken English at school. Went to church and didn't cuss a lot. I also was called an Oreo in high school because I didn't act black. After I got out, I went to college, stopped wearing 4X tall tees and baggy jeans. People in the hood call me white. People on campus call me black. And I always broke stereotypes. Now, I talked about some people who said they wasn't black. KRS-One and Ice Cube, and the other is Black and Night. Chance the Rapper said, I used to tell hoes I was dark light. or off-white, but I'd fight if you said I talk white, not black. Chris Brown said, I got a new skin color. I'm light-skinned black, not black. And then Lil Dicky says, nigga, profusely. Ty Dolla $ign says, two of my bitches in the club, got a light-skinned bitch and a dark-skinned bitch. Kung Fu Kenny says, don't call me black no more. That word is only a color. It ain't facts no more. Tyga says, I'm the black JB the way these bitches scream. And I was like, who do you think JB is? JB is the reason people even call themselves black. Say it loud. I'm light-skinned, but I'm still a dark nigga, not black. And that's something that Don't Rap Against Kendrick ever said, and he's from Canada, which automatically disqualifies him from being black because he's not from the States. And then half cracker, but a nigga too, meaning he doesn't say he's black. And I don't see the nigga in him. In the case he is a nigga, he's a pussy nigga or a bitch nigga. So we just call him half cracker now. Also, he's not black because he ran away from the dozens, which, I mean, that's something we do all the time. Now you see all the light skin, dark skin. I say the Willie Lynch theory because someone said, let the Willie Lynch theory reverse a million times with complexion. Complexion doesn't mean a thing. And in case you didn't see what I did in the names, Chance the Rapper, light skin. Chris Brown, light skin. Ty Dolla $ign, light skin. Kung Fu Kenny, dark skin. Tyga, light skin. Don't rap against Kendrick ever, light skin. Half cracker, light skin. Meanwhile, you can see the thread. You know what I mean? They didn't say they was black. Neither one of them. One of them said just don't call me black. That's just that's it. So when I see the young versus the old, and the male versus the female, and the light versus the dark, I think 1712 to 2012 is 300 years of the Willie Lynch theory. But 14 years later, people are still distracted and pushing skin matters. Black people think that all black people are the same. And in case you are different, you will get called out on it. Talk white, sold out, Uncle Tom, and I'm pretty sure y'all heard the raccoon, you know what I mean? But what I learned is the expectation leads to disappointment. So I don't expect anything from anybody. That way, anything I get is more than I expected. So some people think that we're all the same just because of our skin color. And any parent with 2 or more kids will tell you that they're all different. And they all came from the same person, meaning the same parent. Now, Martin Luther King's colorblind dream was, you know, it is what it is, and people still hanging on to color. While I was turning through Only the Ball Was White, which is the book on Negro baseball, and even though they were barred from playing in the National Association Players for Baseball, for National Association of Professional Baseball Players, which is the NAPBBP that started in 1871, which, you know, never said we was going to bar Negroes. They just had a gentleman's agreement. And coming through that book, I learned a lot. But as I fanned through, there was a bookmark on the page 196 and 197. And on that page, Jackie Robinson, baseball player at number 42, appeared. So James Brown was played by Chadwick Boseman in Get On Up. And Chadwick Boseman also played Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, and Black Panther. And as I always say, separation is illusion. Everything is connected. So I started watching his interviews again. Him and Ryan Coogler. February 13th, to be exact. Black Panther came out on February 16th, 2018. And nobody talked about Wakanda Forever or the Black Panther song all of last month, which is Black History Month. But go check that out. To nail home the light skin, dark skin point, Look at Aunt Vivian from Fresh Prince and the daughter from My Wife and Kids and how they were both recasted. Look at Michael Jackson with the Fro, the Jerry Carroll, and beyond. Look at Sammy Sosa and Charlamagne the God. Charlamagne the God when he interviewed Kanye in 2013, and then when he interviewed Kanye in 2016. Now, K-Dot got 11 nominations for the Grammys on To Pimp a Butterfly, and that was in 2015. He won his first 5 Grammys then. And since 2015, I started writing all of these light-skinned artists who just had more cachet or more pull in the community or in the hood. So while I was writing all these names, I just started like thinking, why don't I just look up the Double XL freshman's list? And I looked up the Double XL freshman's list from 2016 to 2020, and on 2020, Jack Harlow shows up along with Baby King. Now, speaking of Jack Harlow and how he said that he's gotten blacker, and again, my whole series, when I watched the documentary Mr. Dynamite, I found out then and immediately that black actually was an image that James Brown created with the song Say It Loud. And from 1968 to 1982, I'll give you that. You know what I mean? Anybody that was born in that era is black. But after that, that's over. You know what I mean? And when Jack Harlow says that he got blacker, he's just saying he's acting black. You know what I mean? And not only, is he doing the hip-hop genre, but he's doing the R&B too, which, like I said, you got these two dudes, the one that ran away from the dozens and the other one that sued over a battle. I'd say that Jack Harlow is blacker than both of them because one is actually, Jack Harlow is actually from the States. He's from Louisville. And in case y'all think Louisville's sweet, go check out that Taboo from Louisville and come back and tell me how y'all feel about that because that's where Jack Harlow's from.